All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Nicole Lee. I'm the CEO at Hello Sunday Morning, and this is the fifth in our webinar series. Today, we are talking about how to make changes that stick with tips from two beautiful people that have been through that journey of change themselves, and I'll introduce them in a sec. But first, I'll just acknowledge the traditional custodians of the unceded lands that we're all working and living on today. I'm on the lands of the Yalukit Willam clan of the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation in Naarm in Melbourne. And I pay my respects to elders past and present and to all First Nations people who are with us today. For those of you who are new here, Hello Sunday Morning is a digital early intervention service that provides support to people to change their relationship with alcohol through a range of online programs and tools. And our main program is Daybreak, which is a judgment-free community where you can connect with, get support from, and in turn, provide support to other people who are going through their own journey of change. It's a completely anonymous space to explore what might work for you, which fits in very nicely with today's theme. Our philosophy is that there's no one size fits all. We want to support people, whatever your level of drinking, whatever your goals are, whether that's to stop or cut back or take a break or even just learn more about yourself or your drinking or what change might look like for you. There's no time commitment or restrictions or anything like that. So a quick plug, if that sounds good to you, you can download the app from any app store. It's totally free, thanks to the Australian government. And a thank you to the Bupa Foundation for supporting these webinars as well. So I think one of the surprising statistics is that almost half of all drinkers know that they want to change their drinking. But if you've ever tried to make changes, even if you don't drink a lot, you'll know that it can be quite challenging because alcohol is so ingrained into Australian culture and it seems to be everywhere. Personally, a little while ago, I only drink occasionally. And I had an experience a little while ago where I was meeting with some long-term colleagues on a Tuesday night, and I said to myself, I'm not going to be drinking tonight. But when I got there, they'd already poured me a glass of wine. So I drank it because it was there and it's the social thing to do. And that happens a lot to people who are trying to make changes, any type of changes. And the research tells us that it takes multiple attempts usually before people reach the change that they're looking for. And often they will do it in incremental steps. And I think, my personal philosophy is that change is about progress and not perfection, and the strategies and supports that help keep you going in the right direction. So this webinar, I am absolutely delighted to introduce two people who have made that journey, Rebecca and Jeff. Thank you both for joining us. Each of them's taken a different path in changing their relationship with alcohol, and they'll be talking about their personal experiences with the ups and downs of making those changes, and they'll share some practical strategies they've found useful along the way as well. Rebecca, I'll start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about your story and why you wanted to make changes initially?
Absolutely, and thank you for having me today. I changed my relationship with alcohol 6 years ago now. I realized I was all or nothing. So I lost control of my intake. And so how that looked was I became a little bit unpredictable. What would set out as just having a glass or two ended up escalating quite often. And I kind of got to the stage where I thought, this isn't enjoyable for me anymore, and I can't control it. And so I decided to take some steps to step away, which we'll touch on a little bit later. But Hello Sunday Morning has been a huge part of that as well. I found them in 2020. And they really helped me to reframe me feeling very lost and lonely to actually seeing all the benefits of stepping away from alcohol. So we can touch on that more too, but that's my story. So I'm all or nothing, so I'm nothing with alcohol at the moment.
Right. Thanks for sharing that. Jeff, you've taken a different path. Tell us about how you got here.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I started drinking in late teens, 20s, did probably what a lot of people do, just sort of binge drinking. And then as the family life and kids, that sort of changed into just drinking daily. And eventually it's every night. And then you have one night off and go, yeah, have one night off. And then sort of a couple of things happened in my life over the last few years and kind of escalated and kind of became a bit of a crutch as a way of not dealing with the things that were happening in my life. I just became aware that I was drowning it and avoiding confronting it by drinking. And then I sort of decided to take a break. That's how I sort of framed it to myself. And in hindsight, it was a lot of luck. A lot of things just went right for me in doing that. I didn't really plan it, but I ended up going for about 18 months without a drink. And then I kind of realized that I was sick of counting the 18 months. So I just had a drink just to stop counting. And that made me think about it even less. And probably in the last 6 months, I've had like three drinks, maybe four drinks. I had one last week. I had some friends over. One of them actually makes wine. So I thought, oh, I may as well try some of his wine. But that's, yeah, it's like the connection to alcohol for me has completely changed just over the last couple of years.
It's so interesting, isn't it? That's a lot of people say that they start off just maybe even just taking off 1 month and then
Mm.
they feel a lot better and it didn't seem as hard as they thought it was going to be. And then they'll do 2 months and 3 months. And it's actually how Hello Sunday Morning started with Chris Rain just taking a random year off alcohol and
Yeah.
blogging about it and then just stuck with it for a while longer. Um, so Oh, sorry. Just before I go on, I forgot to say that there is a Q&A button for the audience. And if you do have questions, just post them up and use that function with abandon, and we'll try and address all those questions towards the end. So we know, just thinking about setting realistic goals and how you get a goal in place that you can actually reach. We know that people are more likely to stick to goals um, when they're really specific and realistic. And a goal like I'm never drinking again,
Mhm.
um, which I've heard a lot over the years from many people, can feel very overwhelming and it doesn't tend to last a long time. And a goal like I'll have 2 drink-free days this week feels a little bit more manageable um, and is measurable. And tracking that progress can also help notice patterns. So, Jeff, when you first started making changes, um, did you how firm was your goal? How did you set that goal? How did you come to decide that?
I don't think I had any goals. Had, yeah, I had some issues going on in my life. A long marriage ended, and I wasn't dealing very well with that. And I'd moved over to Adelaide from Melbourne. I went over to Melbourne to visit my friends one weekend, and just it was a bender, just three nights in a row. I came back and went, okay, something's got to change. I'm going to take a break, and I didn't specify how long the break would be. Just I'm going to have a break. And it kind of grew from there. Not long after that, I also kind of had decided to, reinvent my life. So I took up yoga. That was fantastic, just for mental focus and, being in the moment. And I took up jujitsu, which failed. That didn't go quite as well. On my second lesson, I blew out my shoulder and ended up having to have surgery. But I think
Mm.
if I'd still been drinking at that time, I would have just spiraled because I had all this mental and emotional stuff going. Then I had a physical injury as well, but I'd already kind of started this, non-specified taking a break from drinking. So that was ended up being a good decision. And it just sort of went from there. I think socially that made it easier as well because I could tell my friends I'm having a break and everyone knows about, Feb Fast, Dry July, Sober October, Remember November. I don't know what I think I made that one up, but and everyone's okay, it's a break. But I think if you were to tell your social circle that you've been with for your whole life, I'm giving up drinking immediately, it's a big statement and it's a hard one to live up to, and it's also going to make people poke and prod and ask questions. Whereas just a break, that's fine.
Yeah. That's what I tell people as well. They're just, if you're doing those months, that's great, because any break from alcohol is good, and it also gives you a clear head to figure out what you're going to do next. Beck, did you ever set a goal that was too big or too unrealistic? And what was that like?
I was quite similar to Jeff, really. In 2020, I made a decision to step away from drinking. I was the same. I didn't want to say I'm never drinking again, even though I'd say that every weekend after a bender. I'd say that's it, never drinking again. What I did was I started F45, and they run all these challenges for a certain amount of days. And so I just set myself little goals. My first one was, okay, I'm going to jump on a 45-day challenge and I'm not going to drink. And so they run a few of those a year. And so for me, it was just the small goals. The thought of never drinking again at that time terrified me. And I think that's a real stopper for people sometimes is they go, "Oh, I'm never going to drink again." And then it overwhelms them thinking, well, what am I going to do? Whereas if you kind of just take it in chunks and, I'm not going to say I'm never going to drink again, but for me, it was just, I'm going to slow down this year. I'm going to try not to drink too much. I'm not going to scream it to the world, which I didn't. I just made a conscious, quiet effort that year to step away from it without announcing it until I was ready, until I was actually ready, which wasn't until the end of 2020 when I finally went, you know what? Actually starting to feel amazing. My life feels back in order. My everything changed. My skin changed, my eyes changed. I started to see all these beautiful things happening, and I thought, okay, this is actually really beneficial, and it's not what I expected it to be. So I started small.
Definitely.
Yeah, both really good examples of just starting really small and having small achievable goals. And once you've reached that goal, you can set a bigger goal for yourself if you want to. We a lot of people in Daybreak are using a function that we call the drink tracker, and that can help also set goals or try and stick to them as well. It's helpful to have some kind of accountability either for yourself or in the Daybreak app. There's lots of people who will help you stay accountable and stay on track if you need it. So in terms of, I'm going to just go to a question. There's a question from Ron that says, or more of a statement that says, I find it hard to believe you can return to alcohol after being free of it. And that kind of ties into my next question about how you navigate social situations. So my example at the beginning is probably a good example of not navigating the social situation that well. And it's actually one of the more common questions that's asked in the Daybreak community is how do you manage social situations when you're either not drinking or trying to drink less? Because in Australia, alcohol is everywhere. It's at school, it's at, after work drinks, not just in, recreational activities. So I think the consensus is that planning ahead is the best strategy here. But Beck, how have you found that the social situations? How have you managed that and navigated that? And what are some of the hot tips you've got for people?
Ron's spot on with me in terms of I tried to give up drinking 3 times before I gave up in the end of 2020. Each time I felt like I could moderate it, and certainly started with going, oh, look at me having 1 or 2 glasses. And then before I knew it, I'd escalated back to huge nights, massive hangovers, mental health plummeting. So I realized that I couldn't moderate it. I had a lot of trauma in my life, and was carrying a lot of that as well. And I think some people just aren't able to mix drinking with things that have perhaps happened in their life. Some can, some can't. For me, I was very mindful when I went out. I would, once I'd given up completely, I would tell my friends, look, happy to drive everyone there, but I will be leaving when I need to leave. I won't be waiting for anyone. Your good friends support you. And I always had an exit plan. I always left because I got a little bit anxious when it started to get loud and a little bit, probably how I used to be when I drank. And I have no judgment on people being like that. But for me, it was like just knowing when to leave. And I love the Daybreak app for that as well, because it has a lot of tips in there. So you can plan your night out when you're doing it, and just understanding your triggers. What's going to be a trigger for you? Is it going to be somebody there that's going to put a shot down in front of you? So surround yourself with the right people, and the right people won't put a drink in front of you because they know that you don't want to drink. And they only know that if you tell them to. So you can't, like in your situation, Nicole, you can't fault someone for generously pouring you a drink to get there.
Yeah,
But for
exactly.
me, if I say I'm giving up and I really want to give up and I need your help with this, then please don't pour me a drink. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good observation. There's just a question I'll throw to both of you from Lucy, who says, did you find that you lost some friends and or that your social life changed quite dramatically? That's been part of Lucy's experience.
Do you want to go, Jeff?
Oh, you can if you like.
Oh, hugely for me. Absolutely. And there is some grief around that as well. You do lose some people along the way. I feel like the right ones stay. But also, I found I've met a whole new group of people that are on the same trajectory as me. And that's okay. Like I took it very personally in the start, but then I realized we've all got our own journey, and you kind of have to accept that some friendships are drinking friendships, and that's very surface level. You don't find that out until you step away, but the real ones will stay, and you'll lose some, and you'll absolutely gain some. That's been my journey.
It can be quite difficult, kind of, because I
Mm.
mean, you tend to surround yourself with people who are like you, and if you're a big drinker, then well, your friends are a big drinker too, and if you try and stop, then they're kind of you're an odd fish in the group now. What about you, Jeff?
Um, I found it wasn't so bad. Yeah, it was again. I'd gone into it as though I'm having a break, and all my close friends kind of knew how my life had been going for the last year or so. So they were fairly supportive. I got in my own head a lot about it. Like I'd be going to a catch up with, some of my friends back in Melbourne, and the sort of catch ups, we'd go up to their place and it would turn into a big drinking frenzy for sure. And got in my own head of, oh my God, they're going to be putting so much pressure. They're going to do this and that. And I'd buy cans of soft drink because I thought I'm going to have something in my hand. I never drink soft drink, but that's apparently a common one. You just replace alcohol with sugar for a while. And it ended up nothing would happen, but I'd just be catastrophizing the whole thing leading up to it. And then everyone would be lovely. You having any drinks, Jeff? No, I'm still off. Okay, cool. They didn't care. And they kind of maybe assume I'd come back around later and see the sense. But it was so much of it was me just getting in my own head about it. And people just didn't really care.
Mm.
It ended up being the same kind of thing. Um, yeah, that not so bad. Maybe a couple of people I realized more in hindsight that the friendship or the relationship was built around just catching up, having a lot of drinks. That you just don't catch up anymore.
Yeah, that is you kind of find out who your friends are really when you make changes like that, and um, it's why a lot of people come into the Daybreak community, because they can get support that perhaps their friends and family might not be providing enough of, or they need in addition to that. Lucy's got a follow-up question which I think is fantastic, but she just says, would love to hear from both of you your response to the inevitable question, why aren't you drinking? And does it the response change depending on who's asking?
For me, I am extremely open and honest that I am in sobriety, that I cannot drink. I don't have the ability to control it. So I think by me being super honest, people are like, oh, okay, rather than me just saying I'm not having a drink, but why? I just say, look, as far as I'm concerned, I'll probably always be in recovery. I had a big problem with alcohol. In the end, it was running my life. I wasn't running it. And so I'm just really brutally honest about it. Probably too open and honest. I talk about it a lot on social media. I talk a lot about it on the Daybreak app, and that's I love that community there to share those feelings, especially in the early days. When you just want to be a bit of anonymous, but now I'm just open and and I'm proud about the fact that I've been able to step away from it and that I can't go back to it and won't go back to it. So
Yeah, that's Jeff, I'm interested in your response to that because I think sometimes it's slightly harder when you're still drinking, but you're not drinking.
Mm.
When you're not saying I'm not, I'm sober and I'm in recovery. You're kind of at the other end where you've just ejected alcohol from most of your life, but you still drink. And if you choose not to, do people still ask you why you're not drinking, and what do you say to them?
Yeah, look, the journey for me has just been finding how much better I feel for not drinking.
Mm.
Um, Hello Sunday morning for me is hello every morning. Like mornings are just amazing now. It's completely changed my sleep patterns. I go to bed probably 3 hours earlier, get up 3 hours earlier, just feel good every morning. So even example, a couple of weeks ago, I had a glass of wine. I knew I was getting up at 6 o'clock to go to the gym in the morning, so I wasn't going to have more than one because even like I probably half a glass actually because if you don't drink for a while, you feel the impact of it more. So I knew I wanted to feel good in the morning. And then all the hobbies I've taken up since then, I've just like this t-shirts for Peak for Parkinson's. I'm actually doing a trek in the Himalayas in October.
That,
That's a fundraiser for Parkinson's as part of that. But that's sort of not something I could have done if I'd still been drinking because I'm having to do a lot of training and stay fit and look after myself. So that would be my answer and has been my answer. Just I don't want to do that because I want to keep feeling good.
yeah, it's actually surprising when you do that, how many people say, yeah, sure, and
Mm.
don't push you. I think, as you said, Jeff, before, that sometimes it's in our head that we think things are going to be really terrible, but actually, most good friends will support you whatever you're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Jeff, if anyone wants to sponsor you on your massive trek, where would they go?
I think peakforparkinsons.com.au is a website
Okay,
that is up.
all right,
Yeah,
that's
we
awesome.
yeah we're yeah, I can't wait. It's 59 days, not that I'm counting, but yeah.
Amazing. Emma's got a question as well, which I think is relevant here. She says, every morning I say, I won't have wine tonight, but 5 p.m. comes around, I cave, I end up having several glasses. How do I have the willpower not to have that first glass? That
Mhm.
might be a question for you, Beck.
I I think the first thing to do is maybe change your routine. That's what I did. If 5 o'clock is that time where you get home and you crack that bottle of wine, then maybe 5 o'clock is time to go for a walk or book yourself in for a class. I found booking myself in for gym classes was a win for me because it committed me to the class. Also, if I didn't go, it meant somebody else missed out on it. So, or there's team sports. It's basically just adjusting your routine because if you stay exactly the same, then it's very hard to change that because you're standing in the kitchen at the same time thinking, well, what else am I going to do? So much else that you can do, walk around the block or meet a friend for coffee. But yeah, it really does come down a lot to changing your routine.
Yeah, that's really good advice for any kind of change, but
Mm.
particularly when you're trying to change drinking. Jeff, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I can really relate to that. It got to the point where it was about sort of from 3 o'clock, maybe an earlier, you'd start looking forward to 5 o'clock when you could open a bottle of wine. And for
Mm.
me, becoming aware of that was huge. Once I sort of thought, hang on, that's what I'm doing. Like you're kind of aware that you're addicted to something. For me, that's always been a bit of a trigger. I do it with coffee sometimes too. Hang on, addicted to caffeine again, back off. But just that awareness. And one of the first obvious things to do is not have wine in the house because that's going to stop you in your tracks, hopefully. And then, as Beck said, just finding something else to do. I remember going and spending a fortune at T2, and I tried to replace alcohol with tea, and that worked. That worked. That wasn't bad. It was better than the soft drink. But just yeah, keeping it out of the house, and new habits form pretty quickly. So you've just got to kind of tough it out for that first few weeks,
Mm.
and that's when you start feeling better and just that's yeah. A lot of it, I didn't know how much better I was going to feel, but the more I progressed, just it's hard to describe. Just as your sleep gets better and just waking up feeling all fresh in the morning, it becomes really easy to not go back to it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a really good point that for a lot of people, drinking, 5 o'clock drinking is just a habit, which means you can kind of undo that habit by replacing it with other habits. That's really good advice. Um, just in the last few minutes, can you give us one um, tip for setbacks or what you've learned when you've had a setback and how perhaps how to stop one setback becoming like a big spiral, for example?
I had a few setbacks when I relapsed, I guess. And also be kind to yourself. We're all human. We're doing the best that we can. I really was trying to step away from it. It took me 3 or 4 attempts, and that's okay. We are stepping away from the social norm. Culturally, we're a very big drinking community. Just know that, I mean, for me personally, this is the best I've felt my entire life, being nearly 6 years away from alcohol. My mental health is at it's the best it's ever been. Being present for your family, your friends, all the bonuses that come with just not drinking. But yeah, just don't give up. Know that you're not alone. There's a lot of people going through it, and yeah, just if you have a setback, just dust yourself off and keep going.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. And also remember, like the research even says that people
Mm.
make multiple attempts before they get to their goals. And a setback isn't I'm completely hopeless and I can never do this. It's just a setback. And I think, yeah, it's really good advice to have, it's a bit of a mindset change, isn't it? Jeff, what about you?
Yeah, just need to focus on the positives because I heard about anecdotally recently someone who'd been off alcohol for I think it was 3 months, and then they'd had the setback and had a drink, and they immediately beat themselves up and catastrophize, I'm terrible, I can't do this. But 3 months, you were off for 3 months.
Yeah,
You can
that's
do it.
amazing. Yeah,
Just focus on the positives.
yeah. And that's what I often say to people that any reduction in alcohol is great, and any time off alcohol, the more time you have off alcohol, the better for your health. So whatever you can manage at the time is is great. Well, we've come close to the end of just one question from Ron, which I can probably answer. I don't know whether either of you have had experience of this, but the question is, does naltrexone help? And the evidence is that it certainly does for many people. And if you're struggling to reduce your drinking, you can still be drinking. You don't have to be abstinent to take naltrexone. So if you're struggling to make the changes you want, it's worth having a discussion with your GP about the medications that might help, one of which is naltrexone. All right. I will stop there, I think. Is there just one last gem, Jeff, that you want to impart on the audience?
Yeah, look, I think just for me, making it a little bit of a competition to see how long I could stay off drinking worked at the start.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it made me be thinking about this this consecutive days thing a bit too much. So it was actually good to get rid of that. But that worked for me, being competitive. But the other thing is just to give it a try, get off it for a while, and just you'll find just so many things just start improving that you didn't know would happen. You just got to kind of trust in the process.
Yeah, excellent. And Beck?
Be kind to yourself. If it's impacting your relationships, your mental health, your work, um, then the first step is, probably that you've jumped on this webinar. Jump on the Daybreak app, start sharing your feelings and your thoughts. Just know there is something better for you and you can make a change.
Great, thank you both. So I guess to sum all of that up, what we've learned, I guess, is that there's no one right way to make a change to your relationship with alcohol. So you've kind of got to find what works for you. Doesn't matter what your goal is. That's the key to lasting change, finding something that is like personal for you. And thank you both for those great practical strategies and tips and answers to the questions. And I think the other thing that I would leave with is that most importantly, change doesn't have to be perfect to be meaningful. Any change is really great. So just as we're closing, for more support or ideas to help your mental health and your reduction in drinking on your alcohol change journey, you can sign up for Daybreak. You can also have a look at our Hello Change program, which is a 6-session cognitive behavior therapy program that you can work through yourself. So a bit like seeing a psychologist, but at your own pace. And hop onto our website. There's lots of information and resources and previous webinars on there that you might find interesting. So thank you, audience. Thank you so much to the panel, Jeff and Beck, for your time today. And the next webinar is on Wednesday, the 26th of August, which is about how to support your friends and loved ones if you're worried about their drinking. So I will see you then.